All right, we are here with round two of semifinals two for the Trios League. We are now following Daniel, Frisky Hobbit. He will now be playing Oompa Loompa, Christopher. As a reminder, Frisky Hobbit is on red white aggro. He's got a bit of a lower curve with some good top end that really buff the board. Um, Sort of team pump idea versus Christopher, who's on green blue with a lot of green blue gold cards, including two Troyans. We haven't gotten to see this deck in action. I'm very excited. He did a lot of key hate drafting, but I still think he has a really sick deck with a lot of gold cards and a lot of fixing. I'll be
Yeah,
very curious to
Christopher's
see
definitely
this deck.
one that I was really excited going into the Mega Draft to see.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a great opening hand here from Daniel. It's got a couple of lands, got a couple of 2 drops. We'd like to see removal spell or two probably to back that up, but it's early out the gate. It looks pretty good.
It's a very easy keep for sure. Especially because I feel
Yeah,
like he had a couple of hard keeps in the first round of the hard mulligan in round one into flooding, and then sort of getting down early in game three, and then really coming back with those team board bumps.
notably, Christopher's deck is certainly geared more towards the high end, so him being on the play and having this 2 drop is pretty important.
Yes, I agree. Very, very important.
Him being able to stem that early damage and get to that late game where he can easily win with his 300 draw spells
Mm-hmm.
will be crucial to this green blue deck.
I especially
Um,
think if he can get Chorian or some sort of mana dork online, he'll start being able to get out those big boys soon.
Absolutely, and he did beat the red blue deck in Jordan 2-0 in round one, so clearly this deck does work.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's
we'll
that
have to see
Chorian.
how it can do. But yep, Troyan on three.
And I do think the red blue deck was also pretty aggressive. So clearly he's not getting stomped out by aggression.
Yeah, and with
Oh,
this Troyan on
a
three, if I'm Daniel,
guardian. I did
I
not see this in Frisky's draft. It must have been later on.
ooh,
That is an
the
excellent
guardian
card.
of Jupiter. Yeah, 3 mana 3/3 flying on its own already pretty good, and the ability to blink something out,
I don't know
doing
how
pretty well.
many value cards he has to blink, but even just giving something vigilance
Exactly right. He can just untap this Burning Fist Minotaur and have it as a
and has
blocker,
an
which I don't think
excellent
they'll need.
attacker now. Notably, Christopher does have that reach that I believe you can pump by discarding cards. So he could trade off, it would just cost him some resources, and is, of course, very risky against a red white deck that's known to have pumps and things like that.
If it weren't for the big bow indicator on News Constrictor, I would not have known. Wow, that is a
Secret
crazy card to be
reach?
coming out on turn 4.
Wow. That is the power of Troyan right there.
Rayan into Arlen, yeah, that's
Gotta be
exactly what you expect to be doing.
pretty scared if you're Frisky seeing a six drop landed on turn four.
Now, granted, he can knock Arlen down to 2, but that won't stop a second wolf from coming in.
Technically, I think Christopher can block with that 2/2 reach and then discard a card, but it of
Good
course would
call.
cost him resources. And I think
Let's
the Burning Mass probably also comes in, Burning Fist comes in,
right.
because I think you're willing to get rid of a land here to get rid of one of these creatures.
But I think I'm okay with, if I'm Christopher, blocking with my 3/3, making
Yeah,
Daniel burn a card, then just making a new one next turn, right?
I think we're gonna firm handshake, both discard a card here and trade all our creatures. I guess the
Yeah, I would
Burning
be
Fist will live, but then you just have another 3/3 next turn to block it, and he's gonna have to get rid of more
exactly.
resources.
And there's only so many cards you can discard before you run out.
The interesting thing here is if Christopher discards a second card to keep his Constrictor alive. He does not, but that is an
Doesn't seem like,
option. Doesn't seem worth it, but is something you could do.
yep.
Interesting he did not play the Selfless Samurai pre combat, because it technically could have kept his flyer alive.
It is true. Probably he wanted to pose a threat of some combat trick and see if he could scare Christopher into just letting the Arlen die.
Certainly.
Wow, that's a 5/5.
Wow. He didn't even tap the Troyan for it.
Didn't even need to. And if I'm Christopher, this is a great position. I've got Another 3/3 coming next turn. I've
Your
got a
Arlen
5/5.
feels very safe.
Yeah. And I'm even thinking I want to start attacking now with
Mm-hmm.
my board presence. The Arlen's going to make another blocker.
And
Hopefully
at
that
that
trades.
point, you won't really care about the Arlen. You've gotten your max value out of her.
Yeah, her passive doesn't really do anything on its own outside of pumping the wolf she makes on minus, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about keeping Arlen around now.
Right? He managed to defend her enough to get the full value, even getting her out early, which is very impressive. And now we're starting that sort of card advantage that we expected to see from Christopher.
I love a good Simic deck. Choosing to play it safe still. Pretty
The
reasonable.
the pod definitely seemed to want a Simic deck to
Yeah,
occur, and it in fact got two of them.
did. So if I'm Daniel, I'm thinking I might pop my armory right and go see if I can't find myself some answers. We know he's got that
Yeah,
minimus.
I think a minimus containment goes pretty well here, right?
It's rid of that gingerbread hunter, that's for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I think that's a good start because you really need to clear the board. That way you can draw into one of your pumps and then get going somewhere.
Oh no. Okay, it is instant speed. Some of those lands are only at sorcery.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. It does appear he's planning to do that on Instep.
Yeah, yeah. This one looks like an instant, so
Mm-hmm.
he's good.
But I agree, a lot of those say he only as a sorcery. Still no attacks
Still
from Christopher. He's
attack.
playing the long game, very fair. He's eyeing his Troyan. I suspect he'll start doing the draw and discard.
Yep. Yeah, with an engine like that on the board, I'm not too worried about
The
my
game
opponent
going
being able
long.
to. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally okay to just chill for a little bit. I'm even wondering if that minimus containment might hit that Troyan.
It's a great point.
It's just it's an engine that gets you exactly the cards you want, but I'm not sure
And it makes sure
how
you can
Daniel
play
will
them.
deal with the 5/5 otherwise.
Yeah, it does feel like the 5/5 really roadblocks him in a way that.
Oh my gosh, the Ogre Head Helm is an artifact or an
Oh, wow. What an excellent combo. That's good drafting right there for sure.
That's why I saw him pick up the armory early, and I was curious. Like it's a good card, but that
That
makes a
that
lot more
helm
sense
was his
now.
pack one pick one, so really makes sense. Yeah,
Nice.
it does feel like because we know he has a lot of board pumps in the deck. Feels like the five
Opting
five
for less-
really stops him.
opting for the lance instead, thinking he needs
Interesting.
to push some damage in this board. And first strike on your turn. That's another great draw.
Ooh,
The Catcher's Monument,
he's
always a
thinking
card you
about
want to see.
slamming that.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I like it. Really set up for when you draw your pump.
Gets to go the eager first year and make another 1/1 as well.
Very nice, very nice. But yeah, I imagine this containment still has to be pointed at the 5/5, but he clearly wasn't intent on doing it this turn.
No, and with Christopher having that for 2 or 3 turns now and not swinging, he's thinking I probably am okay to not deal with this
Yeah.
immediately. My opponent's playing defensive. I'll get rid of this when I want to.
Might even be worried that something bigger and scarier is coming.
It's possible. I mean, we see a Simic deck with a Troy, and there's always a possibility for something bigger than a 5/5, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know he's got a Watcher in the Water in there.
So true.
Christopher's still saying nope, no attacks. You want to get rid of my 5/5, you can do it.
Yeah, he's gonna make him use it. Perhaps even saving some good things in hand. Uh, until he uses it.
This Jousting Lance too, great at being able to get your creatures in for damage.
Great to punch up, especially on maybe like this 4/3 trample.
Yeah, it would require at least a double block to get rid of.
And it'll have first strike. And you have that selfless samurai in
Oh
case
yeah.
Christopher doesn't think to block enough. Or, you can get a great double kill.
Oh my gosh. I think the Dune thingy is a warrior too, and the Selfless Samurai triggers.
Oh, would he gain lifelink?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
That Dune Shaper is a warrior, right?
We will find out shortly.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
that is a warrior. Great point.
We're getting 6/3 lifelink trample.
First strike. Very excellent.
Yeah, but it's a big old creature, and you know, even Daniel's got the option to say, "I want this alive. I'm going to
I'll keep it
make an
alive.
indestructible."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that is a scary creature.
Very.
Shows you how good March Machine says that this one drop has turned into a six
Yeah,
trade
the
event.
threat on the board. And I
Yeah,
definitely think it's a big testament to how good that land is and quite the synergy that Daniel has put together here.
yeah, definitely a great pickup. No blocks. All right.
What's up? I might need a snack.
Oh, does he have
Might
a
order.
bounce? Fight
Yeah,
spell?
I might order some Taco Bell
Wow,
right now.
that's
I'm
pretty
using a
brutal.
lot of energy.
Yeah, just being able to blow out Daniel's entire turn there.
Okay, we have a guava tiramisu or something in there that you should have.
Granted, it does mean he gets an extra 1/1 from Petra's Monument, but I think at that point,
I think that's
I'm
still very worth it to you. Make
I'm not
him,
worried about the extra 1/1. I'm worried about taking 6 of my opponent
yeah,
gaining
make him
6.
respend all that mana, flipping, equipping. I think the one
Well,
one's pretty marginal here.
hey,
There's that
Walker of
Watcher.
the Water. It's really good with Troyan
It's
because you're just
mm-hmm.
now generating a 1/1 every turn with Troyan, and eventually you're gonna have, this giant 9/9 coming out.
And it does feel like the one ones it makes are very relevant to Frisky Hobbit's
Especially
sort
with,
of game plan on how to win. You might have
yeah,
to minimus containment that.
Icy Manipulator also a pretty good
Mm.
draw here.
Very unfortunate he can't do both.
Yeah, so Christopher's gonna get at least one. Oh,
Oh,
okay,
I think
okay.
that's also a great choice.
So
Unless, of course, the second one's in hand, but you can't know that.
now you're getting your opponent stuck with this stupid Watcher in the Water that,
Assumedly, isn't doing much.
for 9 turns and do nothing.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yep.
This was also the principle of this card in Lord of the Rings draft, because you would play this and then the black red player would attack you with 12th power and you would die.
Mm-hmm. So very, very good job on Daniel for spotting that you just need to take out the Troyan instead. Who cares about the Watcher on its own?
Pretty reasonable. And now with this manipulator coming down soon, and this Goon Shaper is still going to be a threat at some point. Um, yeah, he's looking more and more like he can get some damage in, even through this board of pretty decently sized creatures.
Agreed. How do you feel about playing Icy Manipulator in a red-white aggro deck? Because this is game one, so this is main boarded.
I think it's pretty reasonable to do because, like, think about what's going to happen now is he's taking out 2 blockers with 1 card.
I certainly think it looks good now. I'm not arguing
Yeah,
that. It is just not a card I would instinctively think to have in a red white deck, but I think it's the kind of card that bridges the gap of 40 card and 60 card for red white, because I think red white struggles to close out the game in 60 card, right? Because you just have to have such a balance between creatures and spells and removal and lands. Like, the
and
red white deck is a little tenuous.
especially in a format like this where good removal is pretty hard to come by. The
Mm-hmm.
manipulator can kind of stand in for that.
Right. So I think it's the
And
kind of card that instinctively I would not include in a red white deck, but I think makes the difference for making red white feasible as a mega draft deck.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this Watcher in the Water has done something slightly relevant, which is put a stun counter
Put a
on
stun counter
the.
on that guy. That guy is a clock that has been postponed. That is
Yeah,
not nothing.
I'm not trying to justify the Watcher in the Water include, but it's funny.
You're not trying to justify it.
Yeah. I love my big Krakens and Sea Serpents and all that.
I think it's a very fun card that I do not see played a lot, and I think the 2 Troyan deck is the ideal place for it, so I'm very happy. I feel like everyone in
Yeah,
this draft really spotted some synergies that would have been very easy to miss. I think the Watcher plus the 2 Troyans, I think the like slight zombie synergy, I think the ways to get rid of the One Ring, Bill really spotted and capitalized on. I feel
and that's
like
why they're here and I'm not.
I feel like they really honed in on these things. I feel like there was a really unique spell that got creatures back from the graveyard, like Final Parting or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. That I did a really cool interaction in one Mega Draft that I was still really proud of. Huh?
Surprised, Daniel just opting to trade there and not wanting to use his pump spell. Guess he's thinking it's a 1/1. It's no
Yeah,
big loss.
he's basically just buying a turn until his 6/3 comes back online. And that
Yeah,
guy
that's
got the buff from the samurai, so you really just wanted the swing for the turn, I guess.
yeah, it makes sense. I'm sure Christopher is sad to see that this is not the other Troyan.
Yeah. Not the gold card you're looking for. I also
But
imagine we saw in the last game Daniel had the red 5 drop. They gave a buff when it's targeted to the whole board. So
sure,
he
so he's
probably
I
wants to
want
save all his pumps in case he gets something like that or, can sneak lethal in.
that makes sense. Now we're not actually too far off of this Watcher coming in,
Untapping,
especially
yeah.
if he finds a way to draw a couple extra cards. I know he's got a quick study. There was a 5-minute instant speed draw 3 somewhere in his deck.
True. Mm-hmm.
It's not unrealistic that that Watcher will actually become untapped.
Yeah, the way this game's going, I think the time will come.
Though it seems like he might be getting a little unlucky with lands.
Yeah, a bit of a flood out on this side. And he has a decent bit of ways to use his mana. We see he's saving the lands in hand, assumedly for that Minotaur.
Yep,
Um, so like they're not useless, but if they were white creatures, they'd certainly be a lot better.
that is true. I'm worried we're about to see a blowout here with that pump spell. Ew, yeah, because this is.
Not enough to kill it if
Well, it's not
the
enough to
pump
kill it
is used.
anyway.
Yeah.
He'll have to block more than that. But yeah, ooh, no. That's going to be horrible with that pump spell coming in. Looks like he might be changing his mind. Okay. Yeah, that would have been rough getting 4 for 1 with a single
Yeah.
red mana.
This makes more sense, although I am curious what his game plan is to deal with this 6/3, because he certainly can't take that 6 damage again.
Yeah, being at 4 and it having trample too is not a
And knowing
situation you really.
there's 2 icy manipulator taps possible.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah, I feel like this is, yeah, pretty reasonable take. I might have even just swung all here. I don't think you're worried about dying on the crackback when you're at 37.
No, I don't think the life gain from swinging with just the one is beneficial either. I can't
Yeah.
imagine not just going for it.
So now Pittsburgh gets blown out here with that plus
Bargain.
two speed. Loses
Mm-hmm.
three of his creatures. Yeah. Ouch.
Doesn't appear
Okay.
Frisky's going for it. He said, "This
Two.
is good enough for me." Oh, his creature does not die. I
So that
see.
was the problem. Christopher
Yeah.
just didn't block
He
to
he did
kill
not
it.
need to barge in because it simply was not enough damage to
Well, we got a
matter.
counterspell here.
Alright.
That's gonna allow him to presumably what is a land in his hand away.
Is that a way to trigger the Watcher?
It is true.
He will get
One
a
extra
Watcher, okay.
counter. So if he lives for another turn, it will untap after that.
Okay.
You're good onto one here. Oh, did it?
I, I
Oh,
think
maybe
it
I countered.
triggers off the thing dying, maybe.
Oh, you're right. It made
Interesting. It made the 1/1 that keeps something tapped.
in the tentacle token, but when the tentacle dies, it will untap. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to just tail swipe the samurai because otherwise you tail swipe.
Anything else it can protect.
Well, yeah, you tail swipe the 6/3, and then not only does the samurai die anyway, but he also gains like extra life off of it, which no
Yeah.
reason to give, despite him being at 43 anyway, and it probably not mattering. But hey, that Watcher's got an extra 1/1 counter.
Oh yeah.
That totally
10/10.
9/9.
Still
Definitely.
a 5-turn clock.
Yeah,
Oh, he's thinking
yeah. I
about tapping the tentacle. I think that's
think that's
probably fair.
reasonable. Yeah, that way you ensure your opponent's not going to untap their Watcher next turn, which, granted, you have an Icy Manipulator, it
Yeah,
doesn't
you
matter a
could
whole
tap it
lot,
down anyway, but
but you may as well, right?
I think
It also
it's a
stops
good target.
the stun counter from being put on the Dune Shaper.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is relevant. Another land, but he's still doing great with what he's got.
Yeah, for trying to land on the past 4 or 5 turns. Granted, Christopher's draws haven't been spectacular either,
That's
but
true. He thought about going for the extra tap there. Oh, now he's doing it. Okay.
I I think it's just game. That
Yeah, I
spell
think
he has
there's not enough
control.
toughness on the board,
Yeah,
especially with the amount he can buff the red cap and the Minotaur.
yeah, and just give one of them trample, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's kind of wraps after that. So yeah, Christopher opting to walk in a way that doesn't make him dead on board, but not much he can do here with what he's got.
Yeah, just a bit of an overwhelming force with the pump spell backup.
Yep.
Unless Christopher's got something incredible in hand. I guess, does the Seer draw and discard?
It
Wonder,
does.
not
Oh
quite
no,
enough to untap the
and
Watcher.
Scries. It doesn't even draw and discard. Yeah, I
Scries,
think it's
that's
still.
why, that's
Yeah.
why. Makes sense.
But regardless, it doesn't matter. The bump on his
Yeah, the
couple of
barge
red
in
creatures.
will seal it.
Yeah. It
He's
even gives humans multiple
considering
trample. Oh,
not
non-human.
using it just in case Christopher has something, but I don't see a
Uh,
reason not to fire it off.
that's lethal. Okay. Yeah, if I'm Daniel, I don't think my opponent's got anything if they haven't
They
had
would have
it,
used it
in
by now.
5 turns. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my opponent's not holding anything in their hand that can blow me out here.
Yeah.
And he would be correct.
And it's not like he needs to worry about the clapbacks, so.
Yeah.
Whew, what a game one. I wonder how much time both the players have left on their timers.
Yeah, that was certainly a long one.
Especially for red white.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're getting a look at Daniel's deck here. Oh, he also has Fuss Bother as a way to go wide on top of the mass production and the monument.
Pretty good pump spell there.
Yeah.
And even just making a couple of servos is never the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thopter's good there.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to go wide. And then he has the Quartermaster and the two War Scribes and the White Tree. It doesn't look like he's playing the 2 mana pump the board. Um,
Interesting.
Instead, opting for Strangle, Barge in, and Run Amok. Oh, he was not mainboarding the Heroes of the Revel, which is another way to pump the board. And he was mainboarding Join Forces. Interesting.
I guess the heroes you're worried about not being able to close the game out quickly enough.
Mm-hmm. And that
Like,
you have to target them, and he doesn't have many things that target specifically, at least your creatures. Like Icy
yeah.
Manipulator and Immolate and Strangler are not really targeting your own guy, ideally. So it
I mean,
looks like.
Emulate could be worse, but yeah, I see your point.
So it looks like he added in that board pump, the Pride of the Conquerors and the Heroes, and then it looks like he also has in the sideboard that deal 1 damage to 3 things, which is what he used to win round 1. So it feels
Yeah.
like all of those are sort of sideboarded in and came together in a very fun way.
So I guess he's hoping this game to kind of do a similar thing where he's just
Mm-hmm.
able to overwhelm his opponent before they can.
Yeah, he thinks it's going to go long enough that we're going to go wide. Uh,
Yeah, it's reasonable.
and that he's holding his pump until he can use it. Don't know if he saw enough things that Rampant Flames targets. Certainly being sorcery speed is very tough for that card. So he's not bringing that in, but he's bringing in some more of the go wide focus stuff, which I would agree with, certainly. An interesting hand, feels like one that was similar to his game 3 in round 1 of slightly higher curve, but lots of excellent cards. And then, of course, top decking this lovely 2-drop. A very powerful card coming from Christopher. Certainly if he can get that online. But then Daniel getting some more 2-drops.
Yeah, if I'm Daniel, I really don't want to see a schooner coming out on 2.
No.
Because if I anything that can through that, I'm not getting in for damage. Although,
But the
actually, the
Minotaur top deck certainly is something that can get through.
So, Christopher opting to say, I'll take the Explorer. I know I'm not blocking anyway.
Lay claim, quite the card to see on top.
Interesting, he's leaving it too.
Do you have a choice when you explore? Yeah, you must.
You can put it in the yard for sure, yeah. But he's saying, I think I can live long enough to.
So does that
Oh, is he gonna?
read
Ooh,
Troyan? Does that
that's what I
read
would.
like surely he has to have something in hand that tells him he'll be able to play that at some point.
Yeah, I don't want if I have 3 lands and 3 cards in hand, and I'm not close to casting my
Yeah,
seven
I'm not
drop. I don't
keeping
think I
that.
want it there.
So do we think we're blitzing here? Yes. So I imagine
Just
Ginger
opting,
Brute's also going to come out.
just opting to get some extra damage in.
He said, "You want to race? Let's race."
At this point, I think Daniel's eventually trying to set up for a mass production to put a counter on all of them with his plus.
I think he was looking for lands, so the blitz made sense there.
Right. But yeah, this schooner, it's a brutal card in LCI draft, and it's even worse here. It's just so much advantage. Pumps your creatures. It's a 2 mana 3/4 that's so easy to crew.
I
Really a
definitely
great card.
think it's one of the worst things for Daniel to see. And we're seeing some
And
pump here, some ramp here, which makes a lot of
ramp
sense.
and notably a blocker if he needs it.
So true. This makes a lot of
Unfortunately,
sense
notably
with the
also
lake claim.
a removal target, but that won't be an issue with Daniel Sand currently.
No.
But yeah, now we're seeing why he kept that lay claim with the ramp spell, getting his lands off the Explorer triggers.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually getting pretty close to casting it.
Halfway there. So, do you think it's just Guardian or it's setting up Icy Manipulator this turn?
It's rough because you play Icy now and you can't activate it, and you're still facing down a turn of whatever,
At
4,
least
5, 6
5
damage.
damage?
I think I'd rather play. Well, the Guardian doesn't have good blocks either, is the
No.
problem.
Could block the land, but
Doesn't block.
assumedly that land is crewing.
Yeah, that land's not attacking. Yeah, but he's opting to play the Guardian here, saying I'll build my board a little bit.
Notably,
Hopefully,
he
double.
could double block the Schooner, a bit risky of a line to do, but he could double block
Right.
with both creatures. I don't know that he will, but
Gingerbread Hunter coming down.
interesting. I am curious if Christopher has any black or any way in the deck to play the adventure half of the Gingerbread Hunter, because he could have
Yeah.
gotten a black land with the ramp spell.
Oh, it is
So,
true. So there's
assumedly,
probably
no.
that he's just running it as a 5/5 with trample that makes it food.
Which is very fair, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, it's a big
But
old top end card, gains you life, stabilizes your board.
it was
Yep, Daniel.
nice of Christopher to tap out pre combat so
Yeah,
that he can safely make that double block. Not that it's a great trade or anything, but it is a guaranteed trade.
Daniel unfortunately not drawing a land, so he won't have the Icy Manipulator up.
Very tough.
And we've
And he can't equip.
got a guaranteed late claim coming down next turn too, or at least the potential of it.
Mm-hmm. Not that he has anything worth claiming on field or in hand, really.
Yeah.
Can
But
late
now
claim
with
only get creatures?
no, it's permanent. It's enchant
So
permanent.
there's actually a risk of playing the Icy Manipulator.
Yeah, I don't even think into this board that you
You
can.
can, yeah.
It's tough to say what Daniel's got to do to get out of this.
Yeah.
It looks pretty unwinnable from this board state, but it is Daniel. You know, we thought he was out of the last game too, and he showed us away.
Very true. I have should have learned by now not to doubt him, certainly.
He's got some sort of main character plot armor.
Certainly. One of those cool main characters that like don't act like they don't care, you know? Anime protagonist.
Unfortunately, this looks like it might be the protagonist training arc as he is
Yeah. He has a game he can lose, so may as well make it a game 3.
He's keeping it hype for giving us the content we want.
Everybody loves a game 3. I am very impressed by Christopher's deck making it up to 7 mana without a Troyan or any sort of ramp besides the Schooner. But of course, and the ramp spell. Yeah.
Yeah, the one spell, but yeah, no, it's he's been hitting his land drops pretty consistently, and that Schooner gave him a couple extra.
Yeah, I think the Schooner just such a overwhelmingly good card in this deck.
Yeah, definitely what you want to be doing with your green blue deck, that's for sure. Up to say I'll trade for the land, so you don't have the mana for late claim.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, probably it's not going to matter. Just think how close we were to seeing a poison kill too. Yeah, and that's going to be game 2.
He could have made him play out the turn to cost him a couple more seconds, but I don't think these are matchups that are really going to time.
The other thing I think is Daniel, you know, this is just my intuition, but I think he actually might be down more on the clock than Christopher is.
I think you're most certainly right.
Especially with how last game went, where Christopher didn't have a whole lot of decision making to do, and Daniel kind of had to think through his attacks and how to efficiently use his mana, where Christopher was kind of just like land pass for a while, you know?
Very much agreed. So I'm curious if any more changes are going to come in. I don't think a Wanderer's Intervention does much in this matchup. I like the
I think he's
Kieran.
okay.
It's a nice win condition. Took the Pride of the
Yeah,
Conquerors back out, interestingly.
it is weird. You'd think you would want that
I would think
more when
that's
you're on.
like the core of the deck and like perfect going first, but
Well, yeah, granted, I would leave it in my deck all the time, but
yeah,
if
he took it
like
very
for
highly in the draft. I thought he really valued it and it was like part of his core game plan. I would have thought it
so
was main
this is
deck,
an
but
interesting because he's got this one drop and two removal spells, but not much to back it up. So if this one drop ever gets answered,
you're not doing much.
Daniel's gonna have to draw a couple more threats.
The only
That's
problem is I don't think you can mulligan that hand simply because you do have interaction and a creature that you can buff by flipping it.
absolutely
And going
fortunate.
down a card when you're going first is the aggro deck. Like, you would need to draw well to get out of being down a card anyway, so you may as well just draw well, starting with a couple extra lands, knowing
We
that you
see the
have some high drops.
unfortunately gonna get hit with strangle,
Yep.
but
He
now
has gone to use his
Daniel's
removal.
Daniel's sitting with a hand with no interaction at all, and if Christopher could just put a couple things on board,
It's going to be very tough. He can flip his guy, and he certainly has plenty of good draws. He has 5 and 6 drops he can draw into that would be excellent here.
absolutely, yeah. But he's kind of at the mercy of his deck now. If
Yeah. But I kind of
have a
think
big,
that's the problem with red white. Is that you're kind of at
especially
the mercy of drawing the correct ratio of lands and spells even more than a lot of other color
yeah,
pairs.
versus Christopher, who can kind of just get away with um not having a super optimal curve or not spending his mana
Because you have
on
like
every turn.
Troyan to help you filter, you've got card draw, you've got ways to prolong the game.
Yeah, and you've got plenty of top end to just be able to stabilize once you're kind of
Well,
well,
that
that's not
that
as
is a
wrong.
6 drop,
So
as I
he's gonna
said.
flip his Dune Shaper for sure.
Is he
I'm
gonna
curious
get
if reverse
blown
blood.
out by the 4 open mana?
You've got to think Christopher's holding something, right? He didn't just
Surely.
pass the turn with nothing.
I am curious
I'm
what
expecting
Frisky Hobbit is representing with that 1 white mana, but certainly
nothing.
no response time from Christopher. Very curious what he's got
Yeah,
in his
that's
hand. I wonder if he was
ooh,
really banking on that Troyan to,
unfortunately, the Daniel has been drawing very well, and
He
he's got
certainly
this
has.
containment. Yeah, that's if you're Christopher, it's not something you want to see.
Yeah, I do wonder if he has a lot of high drops in hand and he was sort of banking on Troyan smoothing out his draws.
So Daniel opting to make the Thopters, pretty
I,
reasonable, I
I think
think.
that's correct just because the Surveil means so much to you at this point in the game.
Yeah. And you're holding removal for that 4/3 over there. You don't necessarily need
Yeah, like
to.
you're gonna be able to take something out next turn. If he had seen a pump on top, that would have gone a long ways. But
Exactly.
I think keeping the Kieran is the responsible play. I don't think you try and high roll
Yeah.
into a pump.
I think Christopher really hoping that Troyan would stick, but unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
the string will just take it out right as it came in.
Another
Still
full
playing.
pass with all his mana up.
This time, surely there's something
Something
coming.
coming.
5
5
mana.
mana?
What do
Is
you
it a
got?
draw spell? It is.
It certainly is a draw spell.
That's a draw spell,
Not
alright.
exactly what you want to be doing when you're at 4, but I
Mm-hmm.
suppose if he's got nothing else. So we'll
Trying
have
to
to see some.
think what he could draw into here.
Not that.
Spinning wheel, not
Okay.
really what I was hoping to see, I'll be honest.
No, it's unlikely he's gonna be living this turn, but one can
Yeah.
hope.
Not even bothering to try for the minimus containment pre-combat.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
That's
it still dies.
still lethal.
Cool. Yeah,
Well,
I mean, just Daniel drew pretty well. Got those threats he needed. Got the removal, and
He kept a hand with 1 threat and 2 removal, and it worked out.
it certainly did. Shall we jump over to Jordan and see what's going on there?
Yes, I would love to see what Jordan's deck is up to. Oh,
Looks like Sawyer.
Jordan's
Oh,
done.
looks like they're both.
Oh, okay.
Sawyer's still going.
Sawyer's still going.
Sawyer's still playing. All right, so they're looks like a game 3 situation there.
Yep. Okay, so looking like Sawyer's actually mostly green-black. Splashing blue, at least with what lands he has on the field.
Yep.
Very interesting, although of course he's playing the blue artifact over there, so I suspect.
I wish people would just report their matches, and I didn't have to think through that. You would think by now.